I'm really curious on Riker's opinion here. He made a video. We need to talk about Diablo 4's group play problem. So there's always like group play versus solo play. And right now, group play is punished like crazy. You're getting 50% less rewards. You're playing in a group rather than you play solo, in pits at least.
Hey folks, this is Riker, and let me tell you about my play experience with the new Diablo 4 class, the Spiritborn. On July 18th, when I return.
Yep.
In this video, we'll talk about how some sorcerer experts in D4 weigh in on how screwed the class is in Season 5.
Oh, not the sorcerer, man.
We'll discuss a number of other Diablo topics, but we'll also
Who
talk
might that be?
about how George R.R. Martin is teasing an Elden Ring TV show.
Okay, I want to see
Spoke a bit
Diablo 4.
about the state of sorcerers in upcoming Season 5, and in short, not looking great. Well, WoW had interviewed two top sorcerer players, Roxy and Makuna, who were able to shed extra insight.
That's cool.
Check out the full interview, link in the description, but basically, Roxy said that the nerfs to Flame Shield were expected in order to stop the immortal playstyle that it enabled, being able to keep that immortality shield up all the time. But the ice armor changes were a big hit to sorcerer survivability. And
I also did not understand, like, already hitting the... It's a video from Riker, I'm gonna link it here. Already hitting, the flame shield hard, and then also like the other defense that was not broken was the ice shield, and that's also been basically gutted. And yeah, there's the full interview here as well. I'm gonna link that. Go to site from Wowhide. Yeah, obviously I've been playing with Makuna a lot, and I've also been talking with Roxy. So they definitely know what they're talking about. So let's hear it.
Teleport cooldown increase was just adding insult to injury. And Makuna agreed that the ice armor...
Yes, why do they like nerf the fun even more by the cooldown of teleport has just been increased, dude. Like the Sorcs were like just having too much fun on their teleport, man. Had to be nerfed. Dude.
Or nerfs seemed unnecessary. Roxy believes that sorcerers will be really squishy in Season 5, and the only time we've seen sorcerers shine has been due to things unintended by the devs, like the ball lightning bug in Season 2. To try to fix sorcerers, he'd like to see a return of the third enchantment slot that was said to be available to sorcerers in pre-release versions of the game. But
was said to be available. So I never remember sorcerer having 3 enchantment slots. And I played the game pretty early. But who knows? I mean, there could definitely be a third enchantment slot. I think that would be great for sorcerers. And I think it would be okay. But I don't ever remember seeing one.
But also just an entire overhaul to the enchantment system to make the lesser and never used effects more viable. Makuna feels that sorcerers are just poorly balanced relative to other classes. They lack proper...
It sounds like somebody just made that up, but maybe it was.
...base damage and defense. And with the Flame Shield nerf in Season 5, sorcerers will have basically no damage and no defense. While Makuna isn't opposed to adding a third enchantment slot, he doesn't think that's going to really help sorcerers at this point. And he also seems unimpressed with the new toys that sorcerers are getting in Season 5.
Some good quality.
Roxy believes that in order to save sorcerers in Season 5...
But the problem is, like, Shatter is still extremely broken on the Sorc. And as of right now, guys, the Sorcerer is the only class that cleared Pit Tier 180 in group and 165 as of recording this video in solo. Which is basically 10 Pit Tiers higher than any other class.
5, the devs...
But this is like a very... try hard build that's going to be impossible for 99% of the players to even play. And also is getting changed with the immortality nerf. But the DPS part with Shatter, you can also only kill AoE and you cannot do any damage to a single target guy. So it has a lot of problems. And I think Shatter just needs to be adjusted for this. And then the Sorcerer class in general needs a hard look at. Because those are outliers. These 180 clears, these are crazy, crazy outliers. That only happen because there's multiple bugs and double dipping working together.
Just need to revert the ice armor nerf, buff spells and not just passives, and rework spell-specific uniques to increase build variety. Also add the third enchantment slot, and allow sorcerers to equip an additional item the way that rogues and barbarians can. And that's a tall order. Reverting ice armor, that should be easy enough for the devs to do. Buffing spells.
I don't think any class will get any other items like Rogue and Barb have. I think they just need to like balance the class itself or the class mechanic.
Yeah, they can probably do a balancing pass and fit that in time for season launch. We just have to pray that the final balance is going to be good enough because we're not going to get another PTR to test. Reworking uniques, again, feasible, but without a PTR test, yikes. There's just a lot of opportunity for the changes to either be not enough or result in something broken. Third enchantment slot, actually probably not too difficult to do since it was already in the game at some point. And the balance of adding that should be fine. But adding an extra item slot, that is a lot of work.
Thanks, man.
I think, at least. Now, it's no coincidence that Barbarian has consistently been a top, if not the top class, season after season.
Except season 1.
It's the class with the most item slots. 4 weapon slots versus the 2 weapon slots that Druid, Sorcerers, and Necromancers get. And if either of those classes want to wield a 2-handed weapon, then that's giving up yet another weapon slot. Whereas Barbs never have to give up a slot to carry a 2-hander. At times, they basically have a 3-slot advantage over most other classes. And every additional slot is basically an additional source of multiplicative damage. So it's just really hard to keep Barbarians in check when they have so many more opportunities for creating powerful item synergies. In a game in which items are such a huge, significant...
I mean, I feel especially with the temper changes, the extra items feel even more impactful in some ways.
Source of your character's power, giving one class more items.
Dude, this is a perfect representation, man. Like Sorcerer just dying in a pit 63, dude. Oh.
Any other is a huge advantage. And it just makes it so difficult to balance. Now, another topic I see brought up in the community is pit balancing for group play.
Yes.
Now, right now, group play in pits is basically disincentivized.
Like, you never, ever want to play with your friends in pits, guys. You're getting a 50% penalty. 50% haircut. Just because you're playing with your friend, you're getting 50% less loot. It's crazy.
One person puts in the materials, and that person gets the bulk of the rewards, meaning in a group of
so
4,
unfair.
3 out of the 4 people aren't maximizing their rewards. They're also not paying a price, but they don't even have the option to pay a price and get more rewards. They have to make it up in volume. Additionally, anyone dying...
Yeah, at least give us the option, you know, to pay the rune shards. Like, whenever I'm here in the game, and now let's just imagine I was in a party... And I click the thing, and you know it costs like 3 rune shards here to open, these 3. And then I click this, and then now it would ask every other party member, you know, Rob is about to open a pit 101. Would you like to participate 3 rune shards? And you click yes, or you click no. If you click yes, yeah, well then you pay 3 rune shards, but you also get the full reward. And if you don't pay, like you're leeching, you don't have any keys, well then you're only getting half the reward. I think that's fair. But at least give us the option to, like, you know, pay up and get the rewards.
Pay a price and get more rewards. They have to make it up in volume. Additionally, anyone dying cuts time off the run. So one person dying over and over punishes whoever put in the materials.
I think that's kind of okay. But yeah.
Now that last part isn't super relevant. If you're pushing pits, then it is. But if you're speed farming, you're not going to reach a point of failure. And also, pit materials have turned out to be so bountiful that it doesn't really matter if you burn some. You're just wasting time, effectively. However, for those efficient runs, when you get into the groove of just efficiently grinding out your...
There's no efficient group runs at all. Like, you just can't make it efficient. Playing with your friends is just, like, the most inefficient thing you can do, because you're getting a 50% penalty.
Resources, it does mean that you have to do rotations within your group, taking turns putting in materials so that everyone is benefiting equally from grouping up. Which is just a tedious thing to track in an otherwise very smooth gameplay loop. Pits offer probably the smoothest gameplay loop of anything in the game until you turn it into a group activity. And it seems like
I feel there was just some people that were just like, you know, so loud about this, like, you know, you need to like have a penalty in the group play and la 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 la. And then we just like had this penalty. And I think the vast majority of people actually enjoys playing with other people and friends and socializing in a, you know, always online game, MMO, ARPG.
Current implementation was designed to solve edge cases.
It's just crazy.
But it's at the expense of the most common way people want to run group pits together. And it's another example.
Just give everybody equal rewards, man. That doesn't punish anybody playing solo or playing group.
Of Diablo 4 having to relearn the lessons that we learned in Diablo 3.
Yes.
In D3, when rifts were introduced,
we had this
and
pop-up.
Pits are just the evolution of rifts, it took 1 key to open 1 rift. So 1 person would open the rift for the entire group, just like pits in D4.
Yes.
So what happened? People would want to leech and get as many free rift runs as possible. Back with pits, everyone got equal rewards there. And so what happens is in random group play, there was sort of a gentleman's agreement that everyone would rotate through to open rifts, but then tons of people would just leave the game when it was their turn, or otherwise they would just refuse to put in a key saying they don't have any or whatever. So that system was problematic, and it resulted in some interesting community-driven efforts, like the Rifted Forward community that would hook up people who wanted free rifts with people who could clear the Rift Guardians and get the rewards. But ultimately, the game was massively improved when the devs just made the change that, hey, if you want to enter a rift, you have to pay a rift key. Everyone has to pay. It fixed so many problems. It was just overall a good thing.
And I mean, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in Diablo 4 at some point, but it's just going to take them another couple of months to have this, like, you know, conclusion. But people are complaining and complaining and complaining, and rightfully so. And hopefully at some point, guys, they'll listen. This is the same with the armory, man. Like, why do we have to, like, keep, you know, bringing this up in feedback? Why do we have to keep, like, this feedback loop and, like, complaining about this? Eventually, you know, they'll do it. But why can't they? They don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? They can look at the things that already worked very well in their own games, right? In Diablo 3, in the previous game, and, like, build up on this. Like, they don't have to completely reinvent the wheel with everything. Like, they could have just, you know, taken some of the systems, such as the armory, that worked well in Diablo 3 and implemented in Diablo 4, like, from the start. And we are having this massive problem with the bosses now as well. And in Diablo 3, we had the same problem, and at some point they introduced a Bane of the Stricken that basically increases your damage against a single target the longer you fight it, right? Like, and we have this problem exactly in high pits in Diablo 4 right now, where the boss is just this unkillable guy, this damage sponge that just has so much more HP than everything else, and we don't have a Bane of the Stricken yet. So this is just going to take another couple of months, and then they will learn this as well in Diablo 4. But I just don't understand, like, why they can't just, like, you know, look in their own IP address and, like, see these problems that they already had 10 years ago and learn from this.
And that happened literally 10 years ago. This is a lesson that Diablo learned 10 years ago. Why can't we just have that system in D4? If you want to enter a pit, you gotta pay the resource.
It's crazy.
We're not seeing exactly the same issue with pit runs as with rift runs, but the problems still revolve around reward structure and entry cost. And the simplest solution seems again to just be let everyone buy a ticket to enter the amusement park. If there are concerns about this making group play too much more efficient, too much more powerful than solo play, then just scale difficulty per player a bit higher in bits.
Yeah, but it's not. Like, so first of all, the difficulty is scaling 100% per player, and most of the pit layouts, they are, like, straightforward. Like, you can't split. It's like one corridor, right? And you can only, most of the time, go one way. So even if one player, like, goes here in a dead end, like, it doesn't really add efficiency if you have more people. In fact, most of the time, I mean, it might also be because I'm playing a barb, it actually, like, feels way harder playing pits in groups rather than playing the pits solo. Because the scaling is 100% per player, and every player just makes the run twice as hard, and the monster's twice as tanky. So that's just such a no problem at the moment, and they could just be the same rewards. Or at least not a 50% penalty. Like, maybe talking about 5 to 10%, right? But 50, like, literally, you're playing with your friend, and you're getting half the loot. Like, that is not fun.
While I do appreciate the concern that is shown to solo players with the pit, in order to not make players feel like they must group to be efficient in pit runs, I'd rather see that accomplished in a way that doesn't add some kind of bookkeeping memory game of, oh, who's the next one to open the pit? Is it me? Is it you? We took too long and Jim just went ahead and opened it again. And all of this ultimately ties into a much bigger discussion that I'll just touch upon here. ARPGs ultimately become games of efficiency. Not everyone plays for efficiency. I know we're going to have people in comments saying, well, I don't play for efficiency. And then that's fine. But the most effective tactics always boil down to making the most efficient use of your time.
The meta always evolves, my friends.
To farm.
And people are always interested in meta builds, meta strategies. It's just like, that's just how humans are in this kind of games.
As much XP and items and resources per hour. Why slam your head against
Because I also feel it's more fun, right? Like if you are like feeling powerful, or if you're feeling like you're making good progression, it like, at least for me, that's where the fun is coming from, right? Like I personally, like, I could not really play a game casually. Like it's like very hard for me. That's why I also mainly play one game, because I just wouldn't have time to really enjoy, you know, other games or more than a couple games to the depth and the level that I enjoy the game. You know, I just like playing a game casually, like it's just like not enjoyable. Like I'm always looking, you know, at, oh, what is another guy doing, or how can I improve this, and these kind of things. That's just like how it works for me. And this is just how I get the joy, right? I just like doing this min-maxing kind of stuff, like taking, you know, things to the next level.
High difficulty
than playing
when
casually.
you can casually farm at an easier difficulty.
But this is also like, yeah, I would not be a good variety streamer. Like I would like very much focus on one, maybe 2 games, maybe 3 maximum games. I just wouldn't like, you know, being like meh at everything. I'd rather be like, you know, good at, or like really good at 1 or 2 things, because that's just how I enjoy it. I enjoy the try hard.
And end up with more rewards per hour. Why do group pit runs and get less reward per run on average when you can just do solo runs and get the max reward every time? Why do solo Uber boss runs when you can coordinate with 3 other people and get 4 times the boss rewards?
Yeah, and that's the opposite side of that story, right? Like maybe in a group doing 4-player Duriel rotations is a bit too efficient. And, you know, like there also needs to be some reduction there. It just needs to be a balance.
Rotating through all of your materials in your group. Any player who wants to follow the meta gets funneled into a certain way of playing the game, and every player has some degree to which they are willing to accept inefficiency in the interest of their personal fun. But the more efficient something is, the harder it is to sacrifice efficiency in the interest of fun. If the difference in efficiency is 5%...
And this is like especially true for me, because I just... like the fun for me happens when I'm feeling the game is smooth, when I'm feeling I'm making progress and like meaningfully like improving my character or something, right? Or getting something out of it. That's also one of the reasons why these new wave Infernal Hordes didn't feel fun. Because I just felt like I was wasting my time standing there, can't influence the timer while it's like ticking down, and then at the end I get shit on and I don't get any rewards for it either, so I just wasted an hour and it wasn't fun.
Everyone's gonna pick
that was like the main problem I had with this Horde event, and that's the main problem I have in general when there's like some systems that are just not really like effective or efficient to do at all, so it's not fun to me.
Over efficiency. But if it's like 100 times more efficient to play in a less fun way, hardly anyone is going to pick the fun way. It's why devs of ARPGs have a very difficult job to do, which is to ensure that the most fun way to play the game for most players lines up with what is the most efficient way.
It's an interesting challenge.
And they got to ensure that when there are great discrepancies in what players find fun,
they need to fix
for instance, some people really like playing solo, others really like playing in groups, then you got to ensure that the efficiency difference is negligible. Now, outside of that, another big ask that I see for Season 5 from the player base is to bring back the Profane Mindcages of Season 4.
Yes, please.
A lot of people don't even realize Profane Mindcages were just for the season.
I didn't know this either. So this item, guys, like I went on the PTR and I was like, man, like where are all my Profane Mindcages? Like I was like checking the Helltide, and yeah, this is actually a seasonal theme, guys. So... the Helltide, it gets even more of cookie cutter. It gets even easier than what it is right now. And it also gets less rewarding. So I'm really hoping, I left this in my feedback as well, that they are making this core and maybe even one step further. Maybe they can make these stack, right? Like you use 1, boom. You have 10 levels for Helltide. And now you use 2, you click it again, boom. Now the level of Helltide is increased by 20. And then maybe it goes all the way up to monster level 200, and you get some pretty juicy rewards. And it's just another way of, you know, making the Helltide more interesting and more challenging in the end game. Just imagine, you know, you'd fight a Blood Maiden that is level 200, and then give some juicy rewards. Like, that would be so cool, right? But instead, they just remove it.
And they were a way for us to opt into greater reward for greater challenge inside of Helltide, and I do believe in Season 5, they actually increased our base Cinder drop rates, which is nice. Having those 10 extra levels of challenge in Helltide kept things more interesting during the leveling process. Once you're maxed out on your build, it doesn't really matter whether the enemies are level, 5 levels higher than you, or 10 levels higher than you, or 15 levels higher than you. You're going to obliterate them in a one-shot regardless.
Yeah, but not if they're like level 200.
Before you reach that point of maxing out your build, those extra 10 levels of difficulty in Helltide could often turn it from easy difficulty to moderate difficulty. And I think losing the mind cages will make Helltide a little more boring now.
It's just losing player options, right? Like, it's not like you have to play this more difficult Helltide, but you at least have the option to. And you can modify your own game experience, and that's just great.
But that's my opinion. What about you folks? Will you miss Profane Mindcages? I should mention, I'm also open to them not being a consumable. I don't like consumables in general. So, it could be something like, why not just make it a shrine that you find in Helltide? You pray to the shrine, and then your difficulty is increased for an hour, or until you die or whatever. It would mean less consumable bloat, less things to pick up, less inventory issues. Hell, we actually have those shrines in the game already, right? Those shrines, you go emote in front of them, and you gain some super short-term buff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
They're effectively so useless that most people don't even know they exist.
Yep.
But they're a cool mechanic. It's a neat little thing in the game. How about make those the mind cage altars? You emote in front of them, and then your difficulty in Helltide is increased.
That's a really cool idea from Riker.
Although I guess then it will be annoying that if you die, you got to go back and pray again. Hardcore players now are like, softcore problems. Oh, one quick thing I hope they can work into Season 5. Distilled Fear, Exquisite Blood, Living Steel. Is there a reason these stack to 50?
That's what I said, man. Like, look at this inventory, man. Look at this mess. Like, so why does this one, the soothing spices or incenses, they stack to 20? Then the exquisite blood, it stacks to 50. And then there's things like elixirs that stack to 99. Like, why? Why can't they just all stack to 900 or 9,999, man? Why? Why do you artificially create this inventory fucking space problem? And man, I just don't understand, man. Please.
And not 99 or any other big number? Is it to
number,
incentivize
please.
us to consume them? Because again, it's just more stash bloat. One big topic I see come up, and this has popped up as a concern from way before launch, stat bloat and damage bloat. We're at a point in D4 where millions and even billions of damage are being dealt at times. And some people are hoping to see a stat squish for Vessel of Hatred. Basically just, bring down all these numbers across the board so we're not fighting bosses with quadrillions of health. Now, I personally don't really care either way. It doesn't matter to me whether we're doing a billion damage to bosses with a triple.
I think there's two sides to this coin, man. Some people, they really like to do billions and billions of damage, and big number equals good. And some people get really offended. If there's a number higher than 1 million, they immediately want Diablo 2 back and oh no, high number is bad. And I'm like, I don't really care, you can put the decimal, the comma, wherever you want, right? It doesn't matter to me if I do 1 billion or I do 1,000 damage. As long as it's tuned correctly, it doesn't really matter. But I guess to keep things not so complicated, shorter, less numbers are better. It's just about the way that it progresses. Maybe we're starting out, instead of at 1,000 damage, we start off at 1 damage, right? They could stat squish, divide every damage by 1,000 and we'd be okay. But then again, a lot of people I hit for 1 billion, man. That's fucking cool, So I could see both ways here.
Billion life, or
I don't really
doing
care.
1,000 damage to bosses with 1 million life. But how about you folks? Does it matter to you? Sound off in the comments. And to wrap up the Diablo news, I just want to highlight that the Hell 3, a mod for Diablo 1, has entered its beta stage.
Hell yeah, man. This looks good.
This mod is a complete overhaul of D1 with 6 player classes divided into 29 subclasses. There's a few dozen dungeons, there's increased character
cool.
caps, high resolution support, functional multiplayer,
Might be some D1.
more item types, new affixes, crafting and enchanting,
Those were
and
the
a lot
days.
more. If you want to relive Diablo 1 in a new and expanded way, you should check this one out. Then in Helldivers 2,
Alright, that was the video, guys, here from Riker. Really cool points, man. many care about the Diablo 4 stuff, but yeah, that was really good. Really liked some of the points that he raised. Especially with the, you know, like the balances approach and like approaching the fun versus the efficiency and stuff in video games. That really hit it home for me. Like, I could completely and 100% feel that point. And yeah, we'll see what they'll do. There's definitely a lot of feedback that was already given, and I'm hoping that Season 5 is just going to be as good as Season 4. It's going to be tough, but I encourage everybody to give feedback, guys. Let me know your opinions in the comments, like, right in the PTR feedback forum, so we can hopefully together make, you know, Season 5 the best it can be. I'm still looking forward to it. I'm still enjoying the game a lot, and I will be playing. Take care, my friends. GG. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.